Start at the very beginning, where the River State government expressed disappointment with the 3% given to host communities in the PIB bill recently passed by the National Assembly. In an interview with correspondent Emeka Otuka, the River State Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources, Peter Medee, says it is not satisfactory.
A review of what is coming out does not seem very appealing to River State as what we presented. In the first place, we asked for 10% of equity to the host communities, but they came out with 3%, and even the 3% is not exactly very clear. 3% of what? Because if it is 3% of operational profit, then we will not fare well under that, because it is the same oil companies, the IOCs, that determine their operational cost. So it is cost minus revenue will give you profit. So if they determine the cost and they determine the revenue, it means they are also determining what will be the profit. And it is what they declare as profit that 3% of that will now come back to us. So we are not satisfied with that.
Now, Dr. Medee also said the River State government is not happy that the PIB continues to empower the federal government to fund oil exploration in the north using the Federation account.
They are now saying that they are going to vote out money from the Federation account to go to source for oil in the frontier enclave. What does that mean? It was our position that that should be expunged from the bill, but we are surprised that instead of it to be expunged, it was carried forward. And let's look at it. What do you mean by enclave? It means you are going to take money that you are supposed to share to us as a state and give us 13% of it as a state. You will now use that money now to go to source for oil in the northern part of the country, in other part of the country. When oil was sourced for in the Niger Delta, money was not collected from the Federation account to source for oil in the Niger Delta.
All right, so naturally there are many talking points from that reaction. But let's look at a couple of things that we know so far about this bill. The bill seeks to introduce guidance, fiscal framework, and far-reaching reforms for the oil and gas industry. It was first presented to the National Assembly in 2008, so it's been 13 years in waiting. The two chambers of the National Assembly passed the bill. However, there was uproar at the Senate as the senators disagreed on the profit share percentage to be allocated to the host communities, just like Dr. Medee said. And, well, I'm going to give some names, giving context to that. Senators from the Niger Delta region, efforts by Deputy Senate President Senator Ovie Homo-Agege, Senators James Manager, George Sekibo, and Albert Akpan for an upward review were rejected. Now, at this point, we await the President's assent. Well, joining us to discuss all that needs discussing is Dr. Peter Medee. He is the Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources, River State. Good morning, Dr. Medee.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Rivers people. Good morning, listeners.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So we heard your voice. 3%, not enough. We're going to get to that part shortly. But let's talk about the timing. 13 years waiting for this bill to become an act. Has it been too long or just enough time?
Well, it's been pretty long, but like you can see, it has finally been passed. And having been passed, we can appreciate that effort that they actually put in place when we came early in the year to for the public hearing. And they assured us they were going to pass it in June, July. And I'm sure they tried to do their best to make sure that it's passed.
Okay.
It's passed, but what is passed?
Okay, so let's look at why it wasn't passed before now. I mean, 2008, a child born in that year is old enough to start asking questions. Questions like, who is God and where do babies come from? It's quite a long time. What has been the major reason stalling this bill for this long, from your observation as a stakeholder in the process?
Well, you know, the situation around in the country, there have been a lot of politicizing of everything in the country, either along religious line, along regional line, or along ethnic line. And so this bill came at a point where agitation in the Niger Delta has been up to a certain point.
Yeah.
And everybody was feeling very concerned about it. Apart from that, the oil industry globally are beginning to face globalization and other intricacies in the economy of the world.
Okay.
And so a lot of people who want to do business in this sector actually wanted an environment that is conducive, not just in terms of security, but in terms of other regulatory practices. So in that vein, there was the absolute need for this bill to be passed. But then at home, a lot of politicking played out. The synergy between the executive arm and the legislative arm was also very key. So all this play to the gallery such that the thing was over-politicized, and then interests of some zones were seen to be threatened. And so they were not ready to cooperate. All that played out to where we are today for that bill to have suffered this much, but finally it has been passed.
Okay. Now, with this bill being passed, at this point, it's really up to the president. Who would get the greatest benefit? Is it the host communities, the IOC, the oil industry itself? Who would you say that this favors the most?
Well, first and foremost, passing the bill is a kudos for the economy. Because, you know, the Nigerian economy today is yearning for investment.
Surely.
Attracting foreign investment is key. And for everybody that wants to move money into your economy for investment purposes, you want to be sure of the regulatory framework he's going to face doing business in that economy. And so, with the bill passed now, some regulatory bite has been added to the need to attract foreign investment. You know, people keep going all over the world that they are going to look for investors. You don't need to go to anywhere to look for investors. Just get it right. Get the enabling environment. And at the end of the day, investors will look for you. That is what is key. But in the situation where your environment is very harsh in terms of business, then investors won't come. So this bill haven't been passed. I think the economy generally will benefit in terms of inflow of foreign direct investment. You know, the oil sector, we as an economy, we don't have enough or a lot in terms of investment in this area. So we still need foreigners to come and help us, both in terms of capacity as well as in terms of funding. So in this regard, you will see that this bill now being able to give a legal framework where somebody outside the country who has fund to invest in Nigeria can say, look, it is a destination where we can go to do investment because there's a law now regulating what we do better than what has been. So that's the first benefit for the economy. Okay. The other benefit is to the IOC. If you look at the framework of the bill, you will see that the IOC has a lot of role to play. Both the IOC and the NOC, they all have a lot of role to play and a lot of profit to make. So they will also benefit. The other area where we have benefit is the federal government. The federal government, with this bill pass and increase in investment, there's likely going to be an increase in revenue to government. Yeah. And so when there is an more increase of revenue to government, then federal government is going to benefit more. And so other trends of government will also have increase in their revenue. Okay. Then also too, in terms of job creation, the economy is also going to benefit because when there is more investment, then there will be more demand for labor. The more demand for labor, first, we solve the problem of unemployment. Outside that, the twin problem of inflation will also be seen to be solved because, you know, every policy you put in the economy to solve unemployment may create some level of inflation, or to solve inflation may create some level of unemployment. Yeah. But in this direction, in terms of increased productivity, when there's increase in productivity and in production, then more goods and services is going to be available. If more is available, then there is going to be a reduction in price because supply will increase. When supply increases, then price will definitely go down. So that will also solve unemployment. Then the greater area where we're going to see more is in the area of the GDP of the country. Okay. If you watch the GDP over time, you will see that when there is a problem in the oil market, such that there is a fall in price, when there is a fall in price, it drags down the GDP of Nigeria. And before you know, the country will slip into a recession. Now, with this investment, an increase in production, an increase in income, that there is going to be an increase in the output of goods and services, which is also the GDP, especially the monetary value of it. So that, but let's come back. Who had less people to benefit in this bill? Is the oil producing communities.
Exactly. I was waiting because you've listed benefits.
I was coming.
Yeah.
I was coming to them because they are the least to benefit in terms of the benefit sharing ratio. They are the least to benefit. When we did our presentation, we actually asked for 10%.
Yeah.
We're looking at 10% to the host community will make some leverage to the agitation and the insecurity in the Niger Delta region. So in the situation where out of 10%, it is only 3%, I think they are not fair. It's not proportionate enough. At least if it were 5%, would have said, well, it is fine. But from 10 to 3, look at it. It's very lopsided. And what they proposed was 2.5. They proposed 2.5. We asked for 10. So you can see now, it is only 0.5 that was added. I think they were not fair. In that kind of direction, the host community may not benefit more or as much as we would have expected. And so that will affect the benefit to the local government as well as the benefit to the state. Because the state and the local government now will now fall back to provide some of the things that the host community would have been able to benefit from this investment and this bill. So I think this is the few I can say for now in terms of who benefit and who does not benefit.
Yeah, well, those are valid points. And the way you paint the picture in an ideal setting, if things work according to plan, it's going to bring all of that benefit. But let's look at the 3%. Naturally, anybody who speaks for the Niger Delta or defends its interest, all of those who presented the proposal, all of the senators from the region, all spoke against the 3%. A lot of experts have also spoken. But let's understand, just as you said, and I'm glad you pointed it out, from 2008 till now, there have been shifting of the percentage. We've heard 10, we've heard 5, we've heard 2.5. This is when it eventually made 3. So there seemed to be a problem with the particular figure as to what ratio would be enough to give to the host communities. I'm concerned as to why that brought about the greatest controversy. But in defense of this, the people who were on the other side speaking for the 3% said, well, 3% is a lot of money. They put the value at over $500 million. The communities will get this annually, put into the fund, of course, the trust fund. Do you see it is a lot of money as a good defense for 3% is enough?
Well, I don't know where the 3% they are talking of. 3% of what?
Of the profit.
Of the profit. Who determines the profit?
The IOC.
Because cost minus revenue is equals to profit.
Okay.
The IOC determines the cost, the IOC determines the revenue, the IOC determines the profit. So it's what they tell you that is the profit that you will take 3% of.
Yeah, but
so hold on. What if they made so much and they're declaring so little? Well, I know that 100% of nothing is nothing. While 1% of something is something. Okay. But look at it very well. Who is determining this profit? In our presentation as a state, we asked for equity relationship. Let's be part of the production. Let's be part of the process. So if you give us 10% of equity standing, it means that the equity you have in that productivity, we have 10% of it. Or at worst now, we have 3% of it. But if you sit somewhere to say 3% of profit, I think that's the worst thing that has happened to us. Because they will determine what they will tell us that this is what they incur as cost to produce. They will also determine what they will tell us, that this is the revenue they have received. And it is what they say is the cost minus what they say is the revenue that will give profit. So it is that profit that we will now sit down to now take 3% off. So
yeah, but Dr. Medee,
something is wrong somewhere.
Yes. Them having that much power is not good. I mean, we can tell. But there are international best practices. I mean, with all our expertise, are you telling me we have no way of really confirming what a particular service would cost as embarked upon by an IOC? Is it impossible for them to tell us this is what it costs, and we do not have a way to actually fact find?
Thank you. I don't know. You are talking about businessmen. And what these capitalists, what is their interest? Profit. It's profit. It's not for your good.
Yeah, but they're not the first to embark on that.
I'm sorry. It's not for your good. They are there to make profit. And everything that will increase their profit standing is what they will do. You see, we are all familiar with what plays out in the economy today. Best practices, thank you. I agree with you. But inside the best practices, you see worst practice going on. and in that kind of situation, it's a problem. It's a problem. That's why economists of early days were worried about the invisible hand. They were worried about the perfect market. They were worried about competition. Because when you are competing with somebody who has advanced knowledge over you, and you are not of the same level with them, look at these communities. At the end of the day, they are even saying that they will have what they call set plat. They are going to get an operating company that will look at this 3%. Now, who determines those who will be on the board of that company? It's still the IOC. So you can see there's going to be a chain of collaborators. And when you have the chain of collaborators doing this thing together, I can tell you it's not going to give us the very best.
What is the role of the Regulatory Commission?
The role of the Regulatory Commission is to regulate productivity. They're going to regulate how this production will go on. But those who are regulating, who is regulating? You see, you really need to look at this. That's why at a goal, it would have been better for us to have had a better deal in terms of 10% of equity sharing. Equity, not profit. If we have had 10% of equity participation, then, which is what Rivers State asked for, I made the presentation at the Senate and also the House of Reps in Abuja. I represented the state. The Attorney General and myself prepared this program, and we represented the state, and we made a provision. When they came to Rivers State, the Honorable Attorney General of the state made a beautiful presentation to them. We were able to get stakeholders of the state. I remember Barrister Ledu Mite. I remember Senator Birabi and other serious stakeholders in the state made a case. Even the Amanyanaba of Opobo, who is the chairman of Rivers State Traditional Rulers Council, made a case for the state. But we are surprised that in all we did, we also monitor what happened in the 9 Niger Delta state. I actually coordinated all the commissioners for energy in all the oil producing states. And I think we harmonized and had a common front. We had a same position that we all presented. Unfortunately, I think something is wrong somewhere for them to come out with 3%.
Well, naturally,
something is wrong.
Something has to be wrong because obviously you didn't get the 10% you were asking for. But let's talk about meeting each other halfway. Would 5% would have just been okay?
Well, I said so. And if we have seen 5%, it would have made sense. But I'm still asking 5% or 3% or 10% of what? Because that's what is key. Because if it's still based on profit, even 50% will not be a good deal. Because it's what they declare to you as their profit that you will take 50% off. So what if they channel all the fund into cost of production? At the end of the day, the 3%, the 10%, the 5%, you will still not get a better deal. Because, see, we have oil in Nigeria, agreed. Do we have the technology to bring oil from beneath the soil to the surface? We don't have. Do we also have the technology to be able to refine? Even refining, we depend on them. And the more we depend on them, in as much as we will come back to import from them, they will not allow our refineries to work.
Dr. Medee.
They will continue to sabotage it. So if you look at all this, where the oil that was supposed to be a blessing is already turning a curse for us.
Would it be too much to say that we were not ready for this bill to be passed?
Well, not really that we were not ready. We were actually ready because I was in Abuja and I saw the enthusiasm. Nigerians and especially Niger Deltas, you heard of the fight on the floor of the Senate.
Yes,
that's to tell you that everybody was ready. Everybody was expecting a better deal from this. Because it's not just that you were putting a law. You know, in Nigeria, once a law is passed, to review that law and then to amend that law is always difficult. And that was why we actually wanted a better deal than this. But you see, the reality of where we are today is that we are not getting the best of what we actually wanted. There's also another very key area of this bill that was passed.
Tell me.
The frontier enclave, where money now will be voted. The oil, we already have oil in the south.
Yeah.
We already have oil here. So anybody that wants to do oil will just come and know that there is oil. The place where there is no oil in the country is where?
All right. Is 3% enough for host communities? That's the question. I'm hoping we get answers. After the break, of course, we talk some more about the PIB. Don't go anywhere.
The European club football season is over, but football never sleeps. Enter the UEFA European Football Championship. The pandemic could only delay, but never deny the fans the excitement they crave as the Euros take center stage. It's Euro 2020 in 2021, with scenes all over the European continent, traversing state lines and capitals, from Rome to Baku, St. Petersburg, Amsterdam, Bucharest, Glasgow, Copenhagen,
The Morning Crossfire.
A review of what is coming out does not seem very appealing to Rivers State as what we presented. In the first place, we asked for 10% of equity to the host communities, but it came out with 3%, and even the 3% is not exactly very clear. 3% of what? Because if it is 3% of operational profit, then we will not fare well under that, because it is the same oil companies, the IOCs, that determine their operational cost. So it is cost minus revenue will give you profit. So if they determine the cost and they determine the revenue, it means they are also determining what will be the profit. And it is what they declare as profit that 3% of that will now come back to us. So we are not satisfied with that.
This is the Morning Crossfire on 92.3 Nigeria Info.
Welcome back. Indeed, it is the Morning Crossfire, the words and voice of Dr. Peter Medee, State Commissioner for Energy and Natural Resources. And he's right here in the studio. Welcome once again, Dr. Medee.
Thank you.
All right. So is 3% enough for host communities? Obviously, you have answered no. Let's look at the 30%. Now, that amount, better yet, that fraction, was to fund exploration of new oil fields in other regions. What is the biggest problem? The fact that we're searching for oil in other places, or where we're getting the money from?
The issue is, you see, who is searching for this oil? Is it government or private investors? Because if a private investor is coming to do business, to exploit oil, and then you say you collect money from the federation account to now go to look for oil there before he will come, then something is wrong. Because I remember when oil was sourced and found in Niger Delta, money was not collected from government for that. It was the private investors who needed to invest that came for it. They came for it. As I speak today, a lot of companies are coming to my ministry to approach us to come and do geological survey to look at other minerals that are available in the state. So it is a private business. So for us, taking money from the federation account is like robbing Peter to pay Paul. Yeah, because you see, this money is money that is supposed to be used for infrastructural development. This is the money you are supposed to use to create jobs. This is the money you are supposed to use to manage the economy. Then you are using that money now to go and search for oil. When you found the oil, who is going to exploit it? Who? You see, this is the problem. And so what we think is that they would have been able, the government would have been able to have a human face to allow private investors create an enabling environment, solve the insecurity in the northern part of the country, so that private individuals can go in there to invest and look for oil. And when they find the oil, they will be able to get return on their investment.
But it's private investors with national interest.
Private investors with national interest. Whose interest?
National interest.
National interest of who?
National.
No,
Nigeria's interest.
The national interest and the private interest. Can you reconcile them?
Yes, they can align.
The trouble we are is that, you see, in this country, people are not ready to make sacrifice for this nation to grow. Because if you are there to make sacrifice, you should be able to know that as a private investors, we have been here in Niger Delta, even when we know that oil abound here. For them to know the exact point, each of the companies, SPDC has hired CGG and other companies to go and do seismic operations to get the exact point where there is oil. Federal government didn't do that. So something is wrong somewhere.
But Medee, I completely understand your position. Of course, I'm the guy who asks questions, but I'm trying to get what the bigger problem is. The fact that we're searching in other regions, or the fact that the money is coming from where it shouldn't?
The fact that the money is coming from where it shouldn't is the issue.
Okay.
There's no problem. Any region we can go to look for oil. In fact, if I have an opportunity, I'll be able to go to my village and see what I can do to invest to see that there is oil, then and ask them to come, that there is oil. so that we can get the benefit. But in a situation where the economy is lacking in a lot of areas, for us to build railway, we go to China. For us to do this, we go there to look for fund. Now the little we will have, instead of us to use that one to manage the economy, we are now going to use that now to put into a venture that you are not sure of. So when you take this 30% and put in Lake Chad, and then there is no oil, what happened to the 30%? It's gone and gone and gone and gone. That is Kalu management of resources.
Indeed. Indeed. All right, you guys will be a part of the conversation now. 0817-923-0002. 0817-923-0003. 0817-923-0007. WhatsApp and Telegram 080-903-06-416. We are live on Facebook. That means you can watch as you listen. It's facebook.com/Nigeria Info PH. Please turn off your radio as you call. Obara Chigozi on Facebook says, I think 100% is okay for development of these oil communities. No, we cannot get 100%. That's literally impossible. And Agba Timothy, good day. My opinion is 3% is mockery of the fact of actual and balanced developmental policy. It will not lead us to anywhere good. Barry Puer, 3% is way too poor for communities blessed with these natural resources. And over to WhatsApp. The South rep in National Assembly, when they approved 3%, why didn't they reject it? They're just there for their pockets. Well, Walter, they did reject it. It caused a serious debate. Eventually they settled, but it's important to note that there was rejection. As a matter of fact, I went through the names of the South reps that actually did that. But I was speaking with Soji shortly. Hello, good morning.
Hello, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Yeah, my name is Sunday Christian. I'm calling you from Port Harcourt.
Go ahead.
My take on this 3% issue is that the federal government, they know what they are doing. Me, I don't think you give host communities 3%, and then you want to use money to go and search in a place that there is no oil. You're not even sure. Well, let me tell them this morning, there is oil in Aguleri, in Anambra State. They should go there and do that project there. Because Nigeria, what is happening to us is misplaced priority. People they don't know what they are doing. They're just looking for exits to misappropriate funds, and it's not helping us. If we want to be like other countries, this attitude of self-centeredness and selfishness, hypocrisy, is very bad. That's what I have to say this morning. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. We have Soji from Rumo Masi. Good morning, Soji.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning.
I'm not in Nigerian Info.
Yes, it's Nigerian Info. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. My question is, I want to raise a question in regards to the host community.
Yeah.
But I understand that in the PIB bill, what they mean by host community is that even the community where the oil found, the community where pipelines run, down to the north. So it's possible Borno, Katsina, a part of host community. I just want that to be
some clarity
explained better.
All right. So, Dr. Medee, for the purpose of the bill, what community qualifies as host community?
Well, from what was presented, those communities that are in the OML area, the oil mining lease area, are the communities that are termed as a host community. It may not necessarily be where the oil well is or where the pipeline is, but all the communities in that OML area. Okay. So it's just like you have OML 11. OML 11 is from Boni to Andoni, to Goni areas, to Oyibo, to Eche, and also to Owaza. So the whole of those communities under OML 11 are the host community in that oil mining lease.
So mining is a focal point?
Yes, mining lease.
OG is calling from Rupoko. Good morning, OG.
Yeah, actually, good morning, and good morning to your guests in the studio.
Good morning.
My question is very simple. With the process that has gone and that has been passed, I want to ask your guests, how will this protest be turned back? That is one. Secondly, if this protest is not reversed, don't you think this is the time for Niger Delta, the South, to agitate for their own country? Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, everyone wants their own country. It's important to note as well that in the past, it was passed by the Senate, but it was not assented by the President, which is exactly where we are. So he's asking, is there any way to reverse it at this point?
Well, it depends on the strength of lobbying. The strength of lobbying. If the strength of lobbying is stronger, the President may return it back to them to say, look, the sensibilities of our people is in the direction that we can review this part. Okay. But if that is not done and is passed, well, it's going to be work in progress. We need to continue to speak out. We need to continue to raise the attention of those in decision makings to understand, and those who are going to be part of negotiation, those who are going to be part of the processes, to understand that these areas have some flaw. So when that is done, then we'll be able to have some bargaining strength that can give us a better deal in whatever they are doing, starting with this. Then possibly after now, when the 10th Senate comes in, they can also ask for a review or amendment of some part of it.
We have Nathaniel from Bonny Island. We lost that call. Justice from Iwofe. Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
To the guests in the studio, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I want to say 3% is a percentage. Now, also, do we consider the population, the ratio in population of the region affected by this 3%, and also the geographical area of these people given 3%, the ratio of this place and the entire Nigeria? If that is done, we would know whether 3% is good enough or is not good. Now, another thing, one thing is to, agitate for good sharing, good percentage coming to us. The other one is utilizing it very well. Because we know that all these agitation, what the profit or whatever comes from this agitation is only sucked by those negotiating. And we don't come to see anything down here. We know of 13% being given to oil producing state government, but there's nothing on ground to show that, yes, this 13% is being used. So one thing is this agitation for good percentage coming in here. The other one is utilizing it so that it can be fruitful. Because even if I have to chair a table and you don't make good use of a small percentage given to you, and you come again for bigger percentage, I would not want to look into that. So these are some areas we should also consider.
Thank you very much, Justice. Melford from Igruta. Okay, Melford seems to be busy. Okay, so he touched on my next question, Dr. Medee, accountability. There have been a lot of interventions in the Niger Delta area. We have NDDC that is over 20 years old. We have, state governments, and the level of development seen does not connect with the kind of funding that this region has seen. Let's talk accountability. The Community Trust Fund is supposed to get a 3% annually. How should it be used? How are we certain that it will still meet the desired need?
Well, first and foremost, what we are talking of is getting the better deal. When you get the better deal, utilization will now come. But we cannot talk about utilization when we have not gotten even the better deal. Like when we made our presentation in the National Assembly, there's a case study in Rivers State that we also presented, the Indorama case. We presented it. It's working. The percentage that is given to the community from Indorama is a better deal we were looking at. You see, a region that has been set back for a long time, it's not going to be automatic that one day you will see the development. Look at what is happening in Rivers State. For the past 2 months now, we've been on the road commissioning and flagging up projects. If these projects were done previously before now, then the new government would have been able to take off from somewhere. The ones the present government is doing now, the one that will come will no longer do those ones. Possibly is going to be maintenance. So what we are saying is that the region has been so neglected. So even when you put this 3% in, if you stand somewhere, maybe you are in the helicopter flying, you won't even see, because the place has been over-neglected. So what we are saying is that, yes, there is the need for accountability, but there's also a problem in the bill. The SECLOC, which I talked about, is who administers the trust fund is the SECLOC. The SECLOC is now the operating companies of the trust fund. Who determine the membership of the SECLOC is still the IOC. So you can see the community has little help in hand, so they are helpless. And it is only in a situation where somebody is helpless that he will begin to negotiate from the point of weakness. And when you are negotiating from the point of weakness, whatever is thrown at you, you catch. When you catch it, you first of all look at your stomach, look at your pocket, before you can think of others. But in a situation where from the beginning there's a better deal, that would also enhance accountability. So I think that accountability can be stronger when there is a better deal. Look at what is happening in NDDC, like you mentioned. NDDC has become a portfolio agency where people carry portfolio from Abuja, come here, take the same contract, go back to Abuja, and if you don't have an Abuja connection, you can also not be appointed. You can also.
I think with NDDC.
Sorry. Let me get it.
We have to take responsibility for NDDC.
We have to take responsibility.
You have to leave Abuja out of it.
No, hold on. When you say take responsibility, I don't understand what you are saying. The person who is appointed, who appoints him? Abuja. Who appoints him? And that's what we are talking about the SECLOC now. In this event where it is the interplay of the politicking of the IOC that will determine who will be a member of that governing board or not. The problem starts from there. So the problem in NDDC is that it becomes a place where if you want to be appointed membership of the board or MD, you go to Abuja. And who will take the piper?
Day, you and I will have an NDDC conversation on another day, I'm certain.
No problem.
Now
I'm available.
Yes, you are available. We are almost out of time. But this is a question I was asked before I take 1 or 2 calls. According to the bill, the host community will pay the cost for any act of pipeline vandalism, civil unrest in their domain. The cost is to be removed from the host community development fund. Do you think that's fair?
Very, very unfair. Absolutely unfair. It was part of our presentation that you cannot do that. You cannot hold the host community responsible for any pipeline sabotage or anything.
But it happens in their community.
It happens in their community. Who is in charge of the police? The host community or the federal government? Who is the commandant general or the controller general? Who appoints the CP? Who appoints the DPO? Is it the host community? So you don't ask me to pay for what I'm not responsible for. Security is on the exclusive legislative list of government. And so it is the business of government to provide security. And if there's a breach for security, they should be able to look at it as their inefficiency and their lapses and not to throw it back on the community.
All right, very quickly.
Absolutely wrong.
We lost that call. Okay. Well, I've lost both. I think I'm stuck with comments now. The government is not responsible enough to take care of the communities that makes up the state. And David says, I'm in support of the man in the studio. The 3% is not enough for the host communities of our natural resources. I'm certain we have a couple of comments on WhatsApp. Please, let's stop this selfishness of dividing ourselves as a country. Don't know if other countries producing crude are involved in this kind of oil mentalities. Oil is, in my opinion, belongs to Nigeria, and Nigerians, just like every other mineral resource. Let's stop parochial sentiments, Chris says. And currently, Nigeria doesn't have a national carrier in the aviation sector. Airline operation is currently private business, though regulated by government. The same should be done for oil exploration, Tunde says. I'm really trying to manage time. Dr. Medee, if a child came to you and said, please express the grievance or what you want in one sentence, how would you answer that child?
What I will answer is that we need a better deal, just like it's happening in the north where they have natural resources, 50%. Allow us to exploit oil and pay revenue and royalty to government. And that's it. That will give us, those who have the oil should exploit it as their business and then pay tax to government. That is what will solve this. And a bigger problem is in the area of the downstream and the mainstream. Yeah. What is happening there? You exploit this oil, you take it to the international market to sell. After selling it in the international market, you come back with the money and take the money back again to the international market to import fuel. That vicious circle of poverty. That is the trouble we are having.
We do have to fix the system. Thank you, Dr. Medee, for your time.
Thank you.
Thanks for making the time. All right, this is where the Morning Crossfire ends. Thanks for being a part of it. Connect with us at Nigeria Info PH on all platforms, with me at Sparkling Oracle on all platforms. Remember, coming up in the next hour, Jude take you on a ride through Port Hackett. Don't go anywhere.